anger management. And a lot of people simply aren't ready to deal with things. And that's okay. But if you ever get to a point where you are willing to do some positive things that will lead to a more positive outcome, then certainly you can go back to the playlist and find a topic that hopefully you can, relate to, and certainly something that you can certainly start applying to your life. But just before we get started, certainly just kind of cover some ground rules before we get started. So again, we appreciate you. We just want to have a respectful chat because again, you never know who's tuning in, you never know who's watching. So we just say keep it respectful, no insults or threats, offensive language and whatnot. I mean, let's just be grown, certainly in the space and respectful of the platform, what we're trying to do here. And, so certainly that's all we really ask for in this space. We typically don't have people who come up, but certainly if you ask questions, so you can certainly drop your questions in the chat. Certainly we appreciate that. Any questions that you might want to ask us during the live, we'll do our best to answer. But then also we do have an email address. So again, any questions that you may have, you want to get any information from us, certainly you can go to Ask the Coaches, NXTGEN Training 101 at gmail.com. You can go there and drop your questions there. And, certainly, in fact, depending on the questions that we get, we may even entertain a question on and have that as a topic for an upcoming show. So you never know what we'll select. But that's certainly a place where you can certainly drop your questions there. Again, NXTGEN Training 101 at gmail.com. And that is a resource that you can certainly use. But certainly, speaking of the Angel, talked about the coach earlier. We have certainly the coach who's in the building tonight. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
What's up? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, what's today, Thursday? Yeah, I'm all right,
You doing good? You doing good?
Yeah, I'm just, I had to reboot.
Well, let's do this. Let's do this right. So let's go through how are your pies. So just break it down.
Physically, I'm a little tired.
Yeah,
physically. I guess emotionally, it's. I'm thinking a lot, So just my wife has appointments. I have appointments. House is pretty much getting settled. Things happening in the world, across the country. Young black men. I think about my son, I think about my nephews.
Yeah.
So, then the people who may not have me connected to them, just how they going to try to run the path. Spiritually, I'm grounded. I pray a lot. I don't have to be in a particular place to just, ask for a little guidance from the Most High. But emotionally, I'm relaxed. I try to stay relaxed when I'm thinking a lot, so I can just be clear about it. But when I get relaxed, it's like I slept till about 4:00 today.
4? What time you go to bed?
It varies. I like to watch Sanford and Son at night.
Oh man, you going all the way back, huh?
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I just watch the reruns and laugh each time. And but yeah, I just I bounce up throughout the day. I bounce up a couple times throughout the day.
All right.
Talk to my wife, But
all right, so you got to tell me now. What is your favorite Sanford Son episode?
Man, the favorite, dude. Man.
I got mine. I'm just asking you.
Favorite. Dang. I think it was one when the guy came and said Lamont was his father.
Oh,
he came with that information and it found out that he was with Aunt Esther at the end. So I will put that.
It ain't at the pot calling the kettle.
Yes. Yeah, I like
beware,
that.
I'm just saying, beware them holy rollers. They might have been rollers at one point before they became holy. So just always be mindful. Always be mindful of that. People who overhype the religious end. It's
Oh
almost like
man,
they
for
kind of
sure.
compensate for that wild side that they were on back in the day. So I have a couple, obviously.
Yeah,
The one where Lamont learned karate.
yeah, that was on the other day. That was on like
that
right
was
there.
that was that was one.
Yeah, that was a
And
good.
then yeah, and then my second was when it was a two-parter. Is when they went to Hawaii.
Yeah,
So
that
they
was
got caught
cool.
up in that. They got caught up in that diamond ring out there in
Yeah,
Hawaii. So
the
those
Diamond
are
Eye.
definitely those were definitely my favorites. And for a lot of you people, you have no idea what we're talking about. You got to be Gen X at
Yeah, you
least to really understand what we're talking about.
gotta be early Gen X too, so you
Exactly. So definitely, yeah, baby boom Gen X certainly knows exactly what we're talking about. But certainly, go back and watch some Sanford and Son. It's definitely some hilarious comedy from back in the day. But yeah, but overall, Pod's pretty good. Like I said, I got the fit tracker there, so I try to get my
see you
steps in.
spoiled it.
I might have to go for a walk after this show
See you
because right
spoiled it.
now I got 9,658 steps. I need to get to 10K, so I need to so I might have to just run around the house a couple times, a couple laps around the house or whatever, just to get that 10K in.
No, you just
Um,
walk, do a couple walks, man, through your house a couple times. You'll get it.
yeah,
That's
I just want to get it over with. So
yeah,
my backyard's about 50 feet wide or whatever, so I could
you
just
can
go
get that in
do a back and forth or
6
whatever, and
laps.
just kind of get it in. You know what I mean? So, but health is feeling pretty good. Intellectual and emotional is steady as always. Spiritually is in a pretty good place, and yeah. So no complaints on this side here, and just trying to get better. Just every day. I also incorporated a routine. I get up in the morning. I do a little 25 minute cardio in the morning, fasted. Before I get if it's not a day where I'm not doing strength training, then I'll get up and I'll do the cardio in the morning, and it's just a good way to kind of get the day started. But overall, feeling pretty good, and certainly looking forward to certainly this last show in the topic, and then we're going to start another one, another block of shows. I don't know, we may decide we may take a week off before we get into the new block or whatever, but certainly we have a slew of shows that is queued up after this one. But we want to get into this last part, which is dealing with, again, anger management. So this is part 5 of anger management. We're going to do basically a final assessment. And this one I think will be good. The more I looked at it, Coach, I think it might be fun for us to do this as a part of just to kind of show people how this can work. Because when I looked at it, I thought this is something that would be good to be used in a group setting.
Yes, sir.
Because I think a
Everything.
lot of times, people, like I said, a lot of times people want to be heard and people want to know that they're not alone when it comes to certain things. And, a lot of times you notice in groups, especially when you get young people, until like teenage kids, they can be real buttoned up at first, right? But then it's like once you get the conversation started and once someone drops something, then another one kind of drops after that and so on and so forth. And it just kind of really just breaks up the room, and then it becomes a dynamic conversation. And then you also find common traits, common things that people can relate to afterwards. And certainly that also helps people to understand that you're just not out there, that there's not necessarily even something inherently wrong with you. It's just that everybody's got something that they're dealing with. But a lot of times people try to deal with stuff in isolation. And in that isolation is when sometimes your inner demons start speaking to you so loud that you can't really hear anything else on the outside. So getting around some folks who are going through similar things, so that can be very therapeutic. So this one's going to be a little bit different. The other ones that we did up to this point. So let me just go to this slide here just to kind of break down, kind of we did. So the first 4 parts were really kind of self-reflection lessons. These are things that you say to take some time by yourself and you assess these attributes and qualities about yourself, right? So again, it's because part of anger management is a lot of times we don't know what makes us do what we do, but a lot of times we don't take an assessment of what we value. So being able to go through that work, you get that notepad out or that tablet out and just start listing the things, and certainly each slide presentation goes to a series of questions that you're tasked with asking. So usually we'll have 2 to 3 answers that you can write per section, And this is just a catalog of yourself, so you kind of get a better sense of who you are. Because again, a lot of anger also comes out of insecurity. And so if you know who you are, then again, you'll know better than how to relate to others. And then the last part we did last week, it dealt with, again, what do you need from people? So it's one thing to say that, okay, what you need to be doing, but then also be honest with yourself about what you need oftentimes from people too, again, so that you can then respond in kind. And so last week's session, you can certainly go back and watch that video from the playlist, and you can get some idea. But I was thinking with this one, Coach, we can sort of take some time and kind of just play along. Like, we can just talk just as men to men, just as brothers, just stuff that we deal with. I know we've worked on ourselves over the years, so maybe some things that don't trigger as much anymore, maybe because we got a control over it. But you can go back to, how it was back in the day, like things that you might have bothered you back in the day that we could just converse about and just kind of go back and forth, just to show people how this can work in actual life. But again, I think in a group session, maybe 3-4 people in a group and a facilitator that can help with these questions here. And again, more than likely you'll find, again, common cause, common experience, and that, again, just the relief of knowing that you are not by yourself in a lot of these things. You may find more commonality and and hopefully some friendships that, again, going through the journey together. Okay, how can we then keep each other accountable as we work through these issues that we have? So again, I thought when I was looking through it, I thought that would be the best use of today's slide deck and presentation. We don't have a ton of slides tonight, but I thought we can kind of play off each other in that space, and I think it'd be beneficial to the viewers. So you up for that, Coach?
Yeah. Let me jump in there, man. Listen,
Go for
man.
it.
Listening to you, right? I would tell you, man. You listen, hey, man, you go waste. You retire, man. You ain't got nothing to do if you don't go implement all of this information, man, to some real folk, man. It's just, it's not gonna do it. Listen, man. You are embodying what I did for 25 years. You seeing it now, right? So when I saw it 25 years ago,
Right.
after I done, went to college, after I done served in the military, I was on fire. I was doing it with 10 and 12 and 15, sometimes 25, 35 people going through this. And it starts with that authentic being able to connect information in real time. And when they get in those circles, right, and most of them, some may have anger, some may not, but some that may not may be able to give the some with anger solutions and understand that, hey, at one time I had anger too. See, because anger comes in seasons. It's not something that people hold on to all their lives. There's a trigger for it. And sometimes that trigger could be positive or it could put someone in a point of rage. So this right here, yes, that's why I love the group. You said 3 or 4. No, take this to the church group and break it down to them, Brother Bennett. You'll have them in there crying. I'm telling you, because they'll realize, and I'm sure they talk, so they probably realize they have similar situations. They've gone through similarities, right? And that's why I like that teenage 6th grade through high school. They don't spread the information. They're not as talkative amongst peers about things that may hurt them or they may be ashamed of. They're not going to do that. There's no way unless you pull it out of them. And these are techniques you can use to pull it out without trying to implement what I feel, how they should feel. Right. No, it's about being able to, hey, here's the information. And then because they smart, they can understand it once it's broken down in the ways that they understand it. And yeah, that's anger management, it gives everybody, that's the overview of it, right? We want to be able to figure out how we can get better. And not everybody's going to say, yeah, I went to, me and my group, we talked about and they get it that day. It might take 4 or 5 seconds. You might have to take each one of these parts and take 2 weeks on each one. So when they do get it, right, they're growing the whole time. Sometimes they'll get it in part 1 And in their lives, they'll be able to resolve the issue. But when they come back to the space, see, they still understand in part one a little deeper and a little better. And now they can advise, hey, man, try these solutions because it's not about what I know or what you know. That's why when I used to be in group, I used to love putting myself as the villain, as that fool, as that person that's gonna be successful. I didn't say, hey, you are, we hear it all the time. Imagine, no. I am that guy. This is me. This is what I'm going to do. How are you going to resolve it or solve it? We don't know, so we're going to come up with possibilities. So you can see that, and it may not happen today. That's the biggest thing about working with people through anger. It may not happen in one day because they trigger may be outside of that group or that's of the you. They may when you're around Mr. Bennett, it's good, boom. But when I am away, those other triggers are not Mr. Bennett. So, just I'm hearing you say it and then how you explain it. Yes, when you see it actually working in real time, I I, I never question my ability to make a change.
Mhm.
This happened to me early. I never questioned it when I could see it working in real time from the worst of scenarios. I don't believe in, if it happened and you survived it and you got opportunity, I believe the opportunity permits itself to make a 180 change, or what I'm saying, you get the desired effect because you've already surpassed that point. That act of whatever it was is over and you're back amongst society. You have an opportunity. So yeah, man, I'm all for it, man. Because I used to put myself in these situations. I'm that guy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, certainly for those who are in the chat, if you just want to get some guys or some folks around, and again, play along with us and just talk about some of these things and just be transparent. I think this works also. Again, the more transparent you are with people, and it's really about a comfort level. And that's one of the things I did when I have done group activities. I have worked with youth, certainly in the past. Different icebreakers, just different things you do just to get people relating a little bit. And then, but once you got them, it's like it's a snowball downhill, and you really and the kids actually look forward to getting back together. So again, but before you do any of this stuff, it's like you got to connect before you can pull. And so again, learning how to connect, I think, would be really an asset here. But hopefully, just through this, so just some of the responses that you may get, and kids they'll be there and they'll be laughing at each other. It's like, oh, you too, oh wow, and that you start seeing that dynamic start to play off. But yeah, let's get into this a little bit. So again, Coach and I, we're gonna share a bit. We're gonna be a little bit more transparent. Certainly here, and again, Coach, like I said, I know you're like the Zen master, so you got a lot of this under, but go back to your 25-year-old self if you need to for some of these things here. At least talk about how you might have overcome some of these things. But certainly first block, again, triggers. Coach, you talked about triggers earlier. So again, list events, people, or situations that trigger your anger. So I'll start off. Like what things make me angry, and most people tell me you're like one of the most even keel people that I've ever met, or they say I'm very balanced, or that they don't see me getting angry. I mean, obviously, I'm very aware of my surroundings and my situation, and I'm still also mindful of my complexion, especially like when you're in corporate space or whatever. You can't always, express yourself necessarily the way you want to, but generally speaking, I'm pretty calm. But there are things my wife will tell you that, yeah, there definitely are things that make that take me over. My kids can tell you. Yeah.
So, Brother Bennett, before your marriage, go back before your children and all of that. How was you handling these things as far as triggers when it came to people and handling anger? Did you You know, was you as vocal and killed back at 20?
No, I think
Right out of
honestly,
college?
yeah. Honestly, with me, I think my anger came more so through. It wasn't necessarily reaction. Like I wouldn't want to like yell or scream at people or throw things, but I would just internalize, and I would kind of go into a cave a bit, and I would kind of do a lot of my vexing up here, but I would be by myself. So again, we talk about men. Our the caves that we go into. So I would just internalize some stuff. And usually, a lot of times when I'm angry, I withdraw. I'm that guy. I'm not going to just rage and just curse everybody out. But I go in and I separate myself from people, situations. So one of the things for me is like, I'm upset when I'm not talking to you, or I'm upset when I just kind of just get away. Like, because I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. I'll just leave me alone. If my wife and I we got a spat or something like that, I'm like, don't bother me, don't touch me. Just so like I said, I go by myself. I go into my cave, and I kind of work some things out until I can either release or work through my anger personally, or at least to a point where I can talk about whatever it is that I'm upset about without saying the wrong things. Because one thing I've always been mindful of is in my anger, but even the Bible says, in your anger, do not sin. And one of the things I'm always mindful of is I never want to say something that I can never take back. You know what I'm saying? Like me and my wife, early on, we would have our fights and everything. And if I said everything that I was thinking, that could have been problematic. So again, that's why I would rather pull back and work some of that out. And then, and back then it used to be, coach, it used to be for a couple weeks. We have a Cold War for like we didn't speak together to each other like for 2 weeks.
Would you say that was all because of your doing?
No.
But you said that you would like go into your cave and not want to speak to nobody. So.
Right. Oh, but she goes into it also. Like we're both, like I said, both of us, we don't do that anymore. I'm just saying, but both of us kind of had that thing. Well, you don't want to talk, I won't talk to you either. So we both kind of would be in this space until it kind of got to a point where we could talk. But over the years, that gap has shrunk to now. They say you don't let the sun go down, angry at one another. We try to resolve stuff, or by the morning, we try to manage stuff. But as far as like what makes me angry, what are the triggers that makes me angry? Is a lot of time is when I'm not heard. In other words, if I say something, or if I give you an instruction, or if I tell you something, I'm good with it 2 or 3 times. The anger starts to go up when it's the 4th time. And it's not even so much that, but it's about your attentiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're not listening, it's like, you're talking to a kid or whatever, and the faces in the phone or whatever, they're looking elsewhere, or they're watching TV or whatever. It's like, look, I'm trying to tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's just kind of goes in one ear and out the other when it's not heard, that is certainly something that I would certainly get angry about, not being taken seriously. And especially if I went through all the process to kind of explain, and I'm pretty detailed. Like I said, I'm a very step by step, like, this in a kind of an orderly fashion. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I'm hard to understand. In fact, I'm noted for speaking with clarity. And someone doesn't get it, not because they can't get it, but it's because they're too distracted with other things to get it. So that was certainly years ago, certainly in my 20s, that was a big trigger for me.
So take it away from your immediate family, right? Just go outside there. You obviously the things that you and your wife have gone through, that's been a great experience to even make y'all closer to this day. Take it outside of them, right? Let's talk about relatives like cousins, aunties, uncles. Have you ever had a spat or been in a place of anger with one of them?
Oh, sure. I mean, well, not aunties and not so much the older parents. I mean, my parents for sure.
Okay.
And that's for a whole host of reasons, that I've been pretty transparent about as far as my mom with her mental issues, my dad with his drinking issues, and certainly those were certainly sore spots that that would certainly trigger some things as well. But the as far as the idea of, again, not being heard or not being listened to or not being taken seriously when I'm making an important point, like
Okay.
that is definitely, even today, that's still something that I have to manage.
Okay.
But I've worked on, again, one of the things I've always worked on, again, to articulate in as clear a language as I can what it is that I'm trying to get you to understand. I get the fact that, hey, that can you rephrase that? I didn't quite get all that. That is welcoming, because that tells me you're kind of listening or that you want to understand. But people be like, yeah, okay, right, I got it, boom. And then it's like later on, it's like, oh, I forgot what you say again. It's like I totally
You have
so
family members do that to you, like
family,
cousins,
some
you know?
friends,
Yeah,
yeah.
people. Yeah, outside of immediate family, and I'm not talking like it's like business relationships, and
Hmm.
I'm talking about with and profession. I'm talking about with family relatives. Have you ever had situations where you were angry at them?
Hmm. Yeah, probably for those similar reasons. I mean, I'm just giving you one. I'll say one is, like I said, the lack of being heard. The second thing would probably be forgetfulness. I think they almost kind of play off each other. So again, we were supposed to meet certain time, or something was supposed to be delivered certain time. Oh, I forgot. I just told you yesterday. In fact,
Yeah,
I not only told you, I reminded you
that's one I
yesterday.
don't. That's
I
one I
said,
don't give full credit to. I don't give full credit to that.
what do you mean by that?
Meaning that if we make an agreement as far and we're going to exchange some goods or something, and if it's important, right? Especially with
Hmm.
family, you deem those things sort of important because you may see we're gonna see each other,
Hmm.
and I can understand forgetting. I've done it, especially as I've gotten older, but younger, uh, 20s, 30s, then when people said they forgot that if y'all was going to do something, did they try to make amends of it or just brush it off?
Hmm.
Which one did they do that you can recall?
Both,
Okay,
both.
okay,
But
and I'm
but yeah. But I
not,
but I always attribute it to, and this again, I'm getting to where the anger is, or where, because sometimes anger also is what is either internalized or
yeah,
what you think the intention was.
but yeah, and that's what I'm doing, right? Because I'm asking you questions because you're in my group. We in a group, and I
All right,
want you to
but
say,
again, but I thought, hang on, but I thought we were going to do an exchange, so I don't want I don't necessarily want to be the analyzed. Oh, let's have a back and forth. So you're free to share some
so
of
I'm
your
just
things
saying
as
I
well.
was
But
listening to you.
go
So
ahead.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I thought you was gonna, ask me some of the situations like as people, but okay. So as far as my people, the and hearing you say how you would withdraw, I've started doing that when I was a kid. I
Hmm.
was a middle child, so my parents allowed me to sort of explore on my own. And especially, and as the only people in my life that have really got me to a point of frustration are my immediate siblings and relatives, friends, and things like that. I never got so caught up, with them as far as emotionally to where if you mistreat me or try to bully me, I was going
Hmm.
to try to fight you in that moment. But after we separated, you probably wouldn't see me no more unless you saw me in passing. I
Right.
wouldn't recognize you. I might look at you to let you know I'm looking, but I'm doing something else now. And even through high school, even through the military,
Hmm.
college, military, I didn't let people and what they were doing affect me in a sense. If you wanted to smoke and drink and I didn't, you couldn't
Hmm.
peer pressure me
Hmm.
into doing that. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
I've sort of always kept that. The people that have gotten me the frustrated the most is the ones that we got the mama, we got the father. the cousins and all that. I've always had a great experience with my cousins. We used to have such, and I don't think we are we're not our parents, because my mom with her she had six sisters, and they all were married, and they all had boys and girls, and we used to get together on a picnic, and it'd be 62 cousins, just first, what I'm saying, all first cousins, and we all within 5 and 10 years apart. And we was able to have that. I was able to have that experience every day. My father's family was small. It was his sister. She had three boys. One of them passed, who was my best buddy. He passed at 10. And once he passed, I sort of just started to just live on my own within the confines of my parents' rules. I wasn't a bad kid. I loved sports. I didn't start trouble. I didn't start really paying attention to girls. Brother Been until the girls started paying attention to me. I've never, what I'm saying? So I've always had a better understanding because I grew up with sisters. I knew how to, buy a little flower and a little rose for a girl. I knew how to say hello and thank you. I've always the girls that were my younger sisters' age, I just thought they was crazy. I'd never tried to talk to the girls, in that type of situation. But, and then just going off to college, man, early joining the military and coming home, just seeing the world differently. I never really invested in trying to push this mindset and lifestyle on others, except younger people. The fact that you're here and you wanted to dive into it, I've spent most of my adulthood trying to dive into it. And knowing that when I look back, I've always been able to handle anger pretty well. Like you, me and my wife, I'm like that. We don't speak, but it's more like a day or two. When we first got married, because I'm not a yeller and gonna punch the wall and scream. I'm not gonna do all that. I'm just gonna say what I gotta say, and I'm gonna go on about my business and still take.
And you were never that like that.
No, I've never been like that. Growing up, I didn't argue a lot with dudes and females. I used to probably argue with my sisters till I was about 15. Because they would take stuff that I didn't want them to take, but that's about it. It wasn't none of that. I've always been a brother that sort of always kept his cool, always had, good people around me, respected in my neighborhood, respected in other neighborhoods, respected in different states that I was in, during school. When I was in some of the worst schools in the country, I didn't have issues with people trying to take me out and set me up. And
okay, but what about, so let's think outside, because I think you asked the question earlier and started thinking outside take this out of ourselves a bit, because I talked about things that trigger me in terms of what's done to me, but there's also things that I get angry about when things are done to others, like bullying, for example.
Yes,
when I saw a kid bullied. Now, the problem was I was a bit of a weakling myself, so I couldn't really do anything. And at least I didn't think I could. But if I see it like today, right, now I got this Captain America body right now, so I can kind of do something. But even today, when I see people harassed, when I see people harangued or whatnot, or a kid being bullied by another kid or something like that, it just, my fist, balls up. And a lot of it is because, again, I was that kid at one point in time. And even today, it's still, when I see injustice, I think those are things that I get angry about. Still today. So again, we talk about list events, people, situations that trigger your anger. Certainly that someone being disrespected, when a younger person disrespects an old. Now again, I don't like it when an older person disrespects a younger person. I just don't like seeing that at all. I just don't see that how human beings can be so vile towards one another. And like I said, a lot of times I'll just pull myself from that situation because I don't necessarily want to act out or act out of turn. But those are things. So that's also a big one with me. I don't like seeing people taken advantage of. I don't like people who cheated out of something or swindled out of something. Or when you give me, like I said, I went to a car dealer one time, which is like the worst. Car dealer will tell you anything. He either get you in the showroom or to take you out of the showroom, especially when there's a problem. And you don't deliver, and I'm having to get, now I got to get lawyers involved. Now I got to get, because again, there's contract violations and things of that nature. So again, it's just that thing that just people can't be honest, transparent, and truthful, and what you can and you can't do. And like, don't say you're going to do something when you knew from the beginning that you wouldn't be able to do it. You just said it just because it was convenient. So that kind of interaction, whether it's happened to me or when it's been done to other people, those are certainly triggers for me. I think even still, that again, I don't, like I said, react, but and I have certainly more means and more ways to deal with things in a legal fashion, certainly for sure. But certainly those are things that that certainly get me going. When it comes to that sort of thing. So those are just a few, but again, certainly for those who are looking at this, we gave you several spots. If you got several things, different events, maybe a situation from the past that may have set you off that you haven't dealt with, those are things also that you can certainly list here as well. But have some, have some fun with it. I mean, we don't want to get people angry because sometimes even just thinking of a situation can bring up some things. But again, if you're in a setting where people can share, and like I said, hopefully out of this you might find some commonality. Like I think Coach and I, one thing could be like we don't attack or we're not aggressive. We kind of pull back and kind of keep to ourselves or keep away from the people or whatever that might have hurt us or might have dissed us or whatever. We're kind of in that mode of thinking, but you may act differently. And so, so those are things to, kind of be mindful of when it comes to just different triggers that someone has. But Coach, sir, anything else you want to add here before we go into the next one?
Just real quick, that's why I love coaching. That's why I love being in a position to sort of referee situations in rooms. My classroom was probably the coolest place in the school every time. It was always at a peace. It was always at laughter and conversations and students crying. And man, I used to get like, man, come on, man. And I used to ask students all the time, man, am I mean? They used to, no, you're not mean. You're nice. I used to just do it just to gauge, my approaches to different students, the way I recognize them as individuals. Man, I love coaching because I can dictate somewhat of the culture. So just like I said, man, hearing you speak it, right, and I actually lived through it, but it wasn't being able to understand my emotions for myself, and then you have to manage different emotions at the same time. I would always fight for the underdog. I'm an underdog supporter. I'm gonna always support the disabled, the elderly, the disenfranchised. That's what I spent my life doing. It doesn't drain my energy because I don't come to it with my feelings. You want to drain my energy, you want to see something drain my energy? Probably my wife, my son, the people that I'm gonna get emotional about.
You said drain your. So how would
I'm gonna be emotional about it. I'm gonna be emotional if like we said, we just talked about going into my corner. I'm gonna be like, oh my God, man, I can't believe this is happening. How can I? And my son, if he was doing something in school, and I had to like, boy, what's wrong with you? That's what I mean.
Mm.
Not put me in a place of like, oh, I can't do anything, but it's like, man, why I got to alter my energy to deal with something, that deals with information and acting and having certain characters, but that's a building block. I never
Mm.
went overboard with it. You have children, you're not gonna go crazy. You just have to reinforce it sometime. But yeah, man. So I never had like students that if they were, I've been around students who are about to fight, and by the time they talk to me, they shaking hands. So just being able to, again, man, just not have that. I didn't pressure myself on trying to help people be better. And anybody that would come in and try to say something derogatory about someone, I would shut that down immediately. I would
Mm.
turn it on them. I'm Gen X. I used to joke on kids, Brother Bennett.
Mm.
Everybody called me a light skinned bald head. That's yes, I'm light skinned bald head. And I hit them with their little because I used to always meet students where they are. Every student that tried to joke on me, Brother Bennett, they became my prime students. Meaning, once I go in, because I'm going in on you in front of your whole classroom, I'll have everybody laughing at you.
Mm.
They, my buddy. Now I can sit down with them. Now I can go over that academic information with them, show them how they can be good at it. Now I can show them how to control that emotion that they're doing, show them how to get over that. You talking too much in class because you're not dumb. You're smart. You just don't know how to be smart right now. And once I get that connection, because they always did it, we have a little 5-minute joking session. Next time they see me, oh man, I like you. You cool. Man, okay, we gonna talk. And we sit down and talk 5-10 minutes. They stopping by the classroom every day, every other day. They sitting in the group asking questions. They went from missing school from missing 3 days of school to missing 1 day of school.
Mm.
They went from all F's to C's in one semester. They 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 thinking about the decisions as far as when they out of school. So again, just having that man in those spaces at events, man, it just blessed me beyond. I
Gotcha.
can't, you know, yeah, I can't explain it, but yeah, if you're gonna do it, man, you jump right into it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right, let's look at the next set of certain questions for the group here. So again, emotions. All right. So what emotions do these triggers make you feel? So like I said, for me, when it came to those things that I listed personally, right? So again, not being listened to, or someone not keeping their word. It really, the thing it boils down to me is just disrespect. Like it always kind of went to feeling disrespected when someone didn't listen to something I was saying, or someone just forgot something, and you forgot like multiple times. Like I said, I get it. Anybody can forget something, but if you're chronically forgetful, then it gets to, okay, so this isn't about you and your forgetfulness. To me, it always boiled down to disrespect, because I know there might be certain people that you wouldn't do that with. If you did that with their employer, you probably wouldn't have a job. So everybody knows kind of how to be in certain places, when it's proper. But for certain people, especially those who are somewhat close to you, then it becomes a different issue. So that's kind of where that emotion of feeling belittled or less than, that always kind of accompanies. So a lot of those emotions that I was the triggers, it would always kind of go to that piece for me. So at least that was me. I don't know about
But Brother Bennett, you
yeah.
still haven't addressed the emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
The disrespect is an act that they're doing to you. It's a part
Mm-hmm.
of their character, right? But
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, is it anger, frustration, uh, Are you melancholy? It's so many emotions that
Right.
attach to you.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're
So
saying.
that's that yeah, because that's why I say this is a perfect, like, what emotions do these trigger? Some people would say I feel bad, but yes, that's in you're in,
Bad
but
is bad an emotion though, or is that
exactly, it's not an
yeah,
emotion.
right.
See, now how did you? It's really where does your head space and where does your body go? Where does that
Mm-hmm.
go with that?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to deal with your emotion. You
Mm-hmm.
know, are you thinking to laugh? You know, because sometimes your emotion, laughter is an emotion. You know what I'm saying? You something trigger
Mm-hmm.
you, your body chuckling, you get emotional. You tears,
Mm-hmm.
tears run out of our eyes. Sometimes, so that's the importance of the breakdown of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone does those things to you, they disrespect your time, they disrespect you in that capacity. Where does your mind go, or in your body, or is just goes into your mind or your body? But
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily goes to the body too much.
yeah,
At least I can't ever recall. But certainly it's probably a mix of anger and melancholy.
okay,
If I had to kind of put it, but again, not the sort of anger that goes outward.
yeah,
Like as always, it goes kind of inward,
okay,
and
okay,
it's that sense of being almost like you're belittled to an extent. So I think
okay,
that's kind of kind of in that
yeah,
space. Like I said, I go internal.
yeah.
I
You
don't
withdraw,
branch
yeah,
out. I don't whatever. Like even if you just diss me like in a clear way or something, or you let me down in some way, like I probably won't even respond.
right. You withdraw, yes, okay,
I just withdraw. I'll be like, check, like noted.
yes,
And
yes,
then obviously in subsequent actions that come later, and I think that's another slide coming out, the actions and behaviors, we'll talk about that in a minute. But that would, certainly there were certain actions and behaviors that would follow that. But certainly, like I
yes.
said, everything was always in.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You, I have a list I have a list, and I can't never find it when I need
Mm-hmm.
it. I'll find it, and I have a list of how it breaks it down with emotions and different emotions that someone. It's about 25 or 30 different emotions, and when you see the list, you can say five better than trying to go through it. But yeah, man, I'm with you, man. If it's my immediate loved ones, I'm going to be more vocal about it and speak on it. If it's just, people, that I know, um, old friends, people I just meet, I made the voice. I've always found it better for me to voice how I feel in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So you can know, like, okay, I disrespected him, or my actions hurt him. That's me. Because if I feel disrespected, I automatically attack disrespect. Because when I when I'm working with other people, if you disrespect one of my students, if you disrespect one of my players, then I'm going to be the defense. I'm going to protect them, and then I can talk to and discuss with them after the fact. But that's me. And once I do that, I'm not going to linger on it. I'll just
Mm-hmm.
address it, and then I can separate and move on from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, even like I said, I've been doing it mostly all my life. I have great friends north, south, east, west. Um, I have friends that used to be going back and forth, and they would be telling me each other's version, and I never let them know that I was talking to both of them, because I would just use that information to say, well, maybe, they like you too, or maybe they want to be your friend as much as you want to be their friend. So it's just been, a blessing to be able to learn it for myself, and then try to exercise it as best as possible with people in those different scenarios.
Right. But can you talk about, because like I said, I do want this to be more like an interaction more so than because
Yeah.
can
So
you
you
talk
asked me.
about how or was there a time like the way you said you did? Have you always been that, or was there a way you might have felt back then, but you learned over time through a process, maybe through even applying some of the things that you're talking about, that you applied differently than when you would have done back in your 20s or your late teens or 30s or what have you? Has there been a progression there, or that's just been always how you've been?
It's part of, I guess, the progression. I'm going to identify it as the progression, but my foundation was already there. Once I got into the world, went off to college, went off to another country, in the military, outside the military, campus, working in schools, working in this for the states, working in these different areas, right? It sort of, and one thing I did, I was working for this one company earlier, right?
Mm.
They sent me to a men's sort of mental retreat for the weekend. They sent me
Okay.
there, right? So I'm around various races of man, white man, Asian man, older man, grizzly bear man, and I my mind just snapped on. I said, "Oh, it ain't just me thinking like that because I'm black. It's a world of men that have similar traits and issues, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And once I understood that, my capacity for others increased. It seemed to happen at the right time because once once I was full time in the schools, I didn't have problems adjusting with troubled minds. I did not, and just being able to step outside of my feelings about it because I understood my feelings, but I didn't. I know other people are driven by feelings. I couldn't be driven by feelings if I was trying to if I'm in my feelings in my life and Brother Bennett is in a situation and he's in his feelings, how we gonna get out of the feelings part?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm in a position to help you. You know what I'm saying? I got 35 students, different situations. How can I help them if I'm in my feelings about it? So I've learned to take my feelings out of it and express their feelings early. How do you feel? You know what I'm saying? What is it? What is your body doing? What is your mind doing? What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you thinking about doing something?
Yeah.
So once I get them to recognize, oh, I'm this one. What's that word? You know, that's how they. You know, I'm just being a student. I can't. Yeah, you melancholy. Oh yeah, I'm right there. What does that mean? Let's look it up in the dictionary. And I was able to, even adults. I used to be able to just bring them to the understanding, the true understanding of the words first. Don't li- I'm gonna have my assimilations, and you're gonna make up your assimilations. But let's start with the foundation of the word. And I'm old school, brother Ben. I like the big, thick Webster dictionary
Right.
versions of it. You know what I'm saying? So when I used to do that, it would let them see for themselves. I mix a lot of old school, you know, fifth grade, fourth grade reading circles with a group. We all reading out loud and slow. And I used to express it just like that. We all need to understand it because we're going to go through this sometime at the same time and you won't even know it. And sometime we're going to go through it in different stages. But if you
Mm.
know the foundation, you're going to be able to identify those triggers. And
All
when
right.
you get to
So you
certain,
said you said this program you found this was when you were in the military. You went to this.
no, no, when I graduated from Mississippi State, uh, about a year and a half later, 2 years, my mom passed. In 2004, I went to Chicago.
Mm.
Once I went to Chicago, I was exposed to everything. I was already in the schools and I was already coaching, but when I went to Chicago, I ended up working a short time for the state in foster care, and then from there, I was going to the schools. But then I got hired to work in the school full time. 95% of well, it was about 50-50, but I was working with education. I talked to recruiters. I enrolled you in college. We went on college tours. We filled out applications, essay statements. Um, I talked to parents, active parents, foster parents, probation officers, missing dad. I talked to I was in school staff meetings. I was in IEP meetings for students. Um, I talked to teachers, wrote behavior plans, wrote successful plans. We call them success plans. Um, what else I do? Man, it was everything. Counsel. I used to work with the counselors, talk to the counselor. They send the kid to me if he's in a rage. I'm talking to him, calm him down. So I was in a unique position, and that really just I don't know, man. It done a lot for me. I understood it. The pay, people say the pay is bad. The pay wasn't bad because I knew how to manage money well.
Yeah.
So I did pretty well. And then, but I don't know, Brother Benny, man. You like this information. You like how it sort of presents within your own life and how you have to address it as they come along. So whenever, man, you get you retire, man, you ain't got nothing to do, man. Find you go to a little church or a little organization, man. Say, look, this is Brother Bennett, and I got some next gen training. Set up a little, set you up a little 501(c) or whatever. Tell them you want $10,000, $15,000 because they have the money for it. It's plenty of money. Maybe 20. It depends on how much you want to do it. Yeah, I'm sure you don't want to do nothing but a couple of days a week. And yeah, man, they look for people to do it. And not a lot of people are willing to go into the space where it's needed.
Right.
So.
Gotcha. All right. So again, following up on this one, we have, again, actions and behaviors. Yeah. So again, how do these emotions? So we went from the triggers, then we went to the emotions from those triggers, and then the actions and behaviors that you do. How do these emotions affect what you do once they come on? So again, this is, again, group setting. Folks are certainly sharing their feelings on. I think I already said, again, I'm more or less, I withdraw, I pull back, or sometimes I just disassociate. You know what I'm saying? So I go into sort of cave mode. And what I used to do, I used to play, I don't know if you ever did this, Coach, but I would play the argument. I would run simulations of how I wanted if I had to address that person in the future, whatever, we got to talk about, what went down and how things go. I would go through a few rounds of iterations before I was ready to engage. Because like I said, my biggest thing was I never wanted to say something that I couldn't take back. Mm-hmm. Even though they say, yeah, it's good or whatever, but that thing, whatever they call you, whatever, those are the things that you remember when you were a kid. Someone called you this or that, and you still remember it to this day. Mm-hmm. So I never wanted to put that energy out there. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the reasons why I always tend to pull back, separate, get my thoughts together, or get my arguments the way, just almost like how a lawyer prepares an argument before a court. I would do something similar in terms of the mental processing. And that's why, being by myself in order to put that together until I got to a point, okay, well, now I think I'm in a position to talk about it. But prior to then, especially if the emotions were still too raw, I would never want to engage. So again, separate, let me be by myself for a while, and then when I'm in a better position. So again, early on in our marriage, for example, yeah, like I said, the Cold Wars could go on probably for a couple weeks until it got to a point where we finally started, the cold tension started to thaw, and then we could talk about it without the name calling or the whatever the toxic type of communication, and then we can get to a resolution and then start to build back until we hopefully better, and also to not repeat, because they say the best apology is changed behavior. So let's stop doing the things that are triggering the situation, that are causing the emotions, and so let the behaviors be positive. I guess that's how I do it now. How can we create a situation where these things don't happen? And what I've seen in certainly personally and in other people, that's the hardest part. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Yeah, I know I did. But again, what are you doing to change the behaviors and whatnot that are causing you to always be in this situation? And I think that's something that really no one can really help you with unless you're actually ready to actually do some things. And a lot of times I'll see so much dysfunction out there. If anything, can you just stop? just stop. Because it's just a downward spiral, and a lot of people, they just can't pull themselves back from it. So if you need detente, if you can't be friends or whatever, can you have detente? No aggression, non-aggression back. Sometimes, I'll take that over continued action and firing and things of that nature. But I see, so many people in these relationships that are just like, just stop doing. Like, brothers, they'll confess to me, yeah, I love my wife and everything, but just this woman, she texts me every once in a while, I text her back. Just stop doing that. Again, probably easier said than done. But again, you're constantly, and that gets almost back to the, again, some of the stuff that triggers me when you constantly keep doing things over and over and not making any changes at all. Then after a while, then it's almost like, well, look, I got nothing to say to you. Then you come to me and be like, yeah, Paul, I did it again and whatnot. It's like, do I really want to hear it this time? Or do we really need to know what the action was? Because we played this game before. So some brothers, I'll be like, yeah, I mean, you can talk to me. I'll listen to a point. But when are you going to stop this cycle that you're on of actions, which lead to triggers, which lead to emotions, which leads to more action? And it's like a hamster wheel you never get off of. So I don't know how you feel about this one, but this is, but again, and certainly for those who are watching this, again, you can certainly, list down what are some of the behaviors that you do, positive and negative. I mean, hopefully you do more positive than negative. But like I said, sometimes if it means withdrawing from a situation so you don't flare up, then I'd rather you do that than just blow up at the wrong time. But what do you think about this one, Coach?
I mean, if you was going to practice this as an exercise, this is a great time to have a vision board, a whiteboard, chalkboard, anything where you can actually write down particular options that someone would say. You're going to have an action. What is it? Give me something that you did that could have got you in trouble. Oh, I stole my grandmama's $2 out of her purse. I don't know, smoked a cigarette in school. I did something, right? And that was an action, right? Okay, you get a consequence for it. What could it be? Because the consequence is not going to come from you. It's going to come from someone else. What could those be? You might get a various amount of consequences. Somebody will say, you get suspended, your mama will whoop you, your granny will whoop you. Okay, those are all great consequences, right? So action, you did the action today, you had a consequence, cool. You come back the next day. Are you going to continue to do this action?
Yeah.
No, some people learn quick. Nah, man, I wouldn't do that no more because they'll come to it. Because when you're able to let them see it, what the consequences could be just because of an act, kids, young people think sometimes people have brain farts, as they call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they can be good people. Just do stupid stuff sometimes, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. You got your consequence. You got away with it. You did it. You snuck. Now somebody's back. You got away with it. Cool.
Yeah. But it also goes back to emotions, though, right? I mean, it goes back to here, because the question is, based on the emotions that you're feeling, what actions do you take based on those? And like I said, a lot of times it's like the guys I be talking to, they'll be like, well, yeah, but she makes me feel a certain way.
Yeah, but
or affirmed or what have you, and then you just do you keep doing these actions that are based on, again, if you don't deal with the emotions of it,
but but
that's going to be the main driver of the actions, I would think, right?
no, because the action a lot of time comes before the emotion. And they sort of interchangeable. Sometimes the action triggers the emotion because you do something, I'm going to hold you accountable. Now you're emotional about being held accountable. Or, and you can look at it, and you're right, because in the same sense, I got so mad at my mother that I punched a hole in the wall. I stole a car. I did something because somebody, did something to me, something I didn't like. So it's sort of hand in hand, but this is where when you're dealing with the action, okay, you've got in your emotions, you do the action, you get held accountable, you learned your lesson. I used to have to break. This is the hardest thing for people to understand. You did something stupid, you was held accountable, you got your consequence, so you learn your lesson. You're not doing it no more. It's over. It's a learning experience. You got it with your
Right.
kids when you get old. I used to have to break it down to these people like that, right? And that's why I love about it. So they can say, like, okay, yeah, we do stupid stuff. Okay. Next week comes along. A similar situation presents itself. It got you in trouble before. Do you act on it again? Because now it's not a oops upside the head moment. Now it's going into your particular behavior.
Yeah.
See, now you think you can't cry emotional about it when you're a part of your emotion is thinking about committing the act again. You was confident in your emotions and saying, "Oh, I'm gonna do this again," and then you get dealt the same, a harsher consequence. Now you questioning why are they doing all of this? Why are they going to the extreme? Why are they doing too much? Because you did the action before, you was held accountable, then you came right back to it. So now it's part of your behavior. And the way I used to break it down is, you're gonna have a oops upside the head moment. Cool. Learn from that mistake. Let's move on. We're not gonna keep getting caught doing the same stupid stuff and say I'm trying to be better. No, it's part of who you. Then you do the behavior. It becomes a behavior pattern. And when it becomes a behavior pattern, it becomes a part of someone's character. So, and that's why this is a great building block, because your action, yeah, we do stupid stuff. I tripped over a curb, right? Okay, cool. I held accountable, scratched up my elbow. Then every time I see a curve, I'm tripping over it. Every time I see somebody leave some money, my grandmother leave her wallet on the counter, I steal money out of her wallet.
Yeah.
Every time my friend does this, I do that. So now that's your behavior. And I was just telling somebody, and again, depends on where they are. Some people, one time they learn. Some people, they in the middle of they got parole officers. What was you doing, man? I kept stealing cars. Okay, that's part of your character.
Right.
That's like an addiction. You're addicted to stealing cars.
Right.
So that's part of your character.
Right.
So just being able to connect them, and then once they recognize, like, you know what, that's right. So how can we fix this? And that's where I like to get them to recognize that an action, it happens. Behavior, you're sort of thinking about it on your off time.
Yeah.
When you ain't in
sure.
school, you know what I'm saying, you're trying to steal. Right. When you doing, you know what I'm saying, it's part of your behavior patterns, and that behavior becomes your character.
Yeah.
So is this the person you want to be known for when they lay you down?
Right. And then again, this is a segue, Shirley, into the next one here. Again, list the negative consequences of what you do.
Yeah. See.
So again, it starts with, again, the things that trigger you, that lead to certain emotions. And a lot of times those emotions, now I know, Coach, you said certainly actions can certainly lead to emotions, but certainly emotions can also lead to actions.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you do such an action, like I said, you yell, you talk back, or whatever. Like I said, you get into a fight with your spouse, and you got just words get said that shouldn't have been said. Now again, what are the consequences of what you do? Disharmony in the house. You guys aren't together. You're probably not having sex. You're not having, there's just a lot of things that go on that, because of these things. And so having an understanding of how all this is like a dominoes. One thing can lead to another one. And like I said, it just creates this cycle that can lead to these. Now, again, conversely, though, you can also talk about now if you can just get a handle understanding of this cycle that you're on, and if you're willing to certainly take some corrective action, then you can get into the next slide, which deals with, again, list more constructive options. And the coach, this might be I think what you were talking about. This is where you kind of come in and you try to reshape or try to how to redirect someone towards, doing something different than what's got them into trouble in the first place. If they're constantly find themselves in trouble, what are some things that they can do outside of those negative things?
This is where I become the villain, right? That's why I like to become the villain, right? Because now I need my group to give me some solutions on how I can avoid these type of actions and just get me out of this bind that I'm in. And let them run the list, and they come up with some great constructive options for you. You may not listen like all that they may provide, but whether they still give you options. So not all options are good options,
right?
Because sometimes you have to be held accountable for your actions,
right?
So just there's no specific words that you can use. You just allow the individuals to sort of learn from each other and learn of the different options that they are provided and try to make the best decision. So this is always good if you're gonna be in a situation where you can facilitate groups in a sense like this. This would be one of the earlier conversations or discussions that I would have within the first month or so, if I know I have somebody over a period of time. And we may have to visit, see how we went through. This may be a 4-hour discussion,
right?
Because if you
or certainly, like you said, you could stretch this out over, like I said, a couple of weeks if need be. You know what I'm saying? You could certainly use this to that advantage. But I think getting someone to understand there's and for most people, like generally one mistake or a couple mistakes don't really sink you like that. You know what I mean? Like it's more times than not, just in my observation, when it comes to if I've trained people or if I've tried to help people with diets and whatnot, it's a cycle. It's always a cycle more so than just an event. You don't get fat. I guess in this PC space, I don't know if you're supposed to say fat anymore, but you don't get fat overnight. It is a repeated set of actions or inactions over a period of time that kind of lead to that condition, but then you want the magic pill or you want to take the injection or what have you to lose the weight. And a lot of people, they never get in contact with, again, like eating, for example, is a perfect example of that. What triggers you? Stress. Okay, when I get stressed, I eat. And then when I get stressed out, I start feeling a certain way, and then I take those actions to eat more. But then again, what are the consequences of all that eating? And now you find yourself in a situation where either got to put on meds or what have you, or trying to exercise or whatever. But again, even in training clients, I've seen this. And there's just certain habits, there's just certain things that people aren't willing to break to get a more constructive result. I can train them everything. I tell them how to exercise. I'll even give them diets, even though I'm not a dietitian. But I'll say, here's some things. Or if I just ask you, okay, give me a diet. Like from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, what are you eating? And just list and be honest about what it is that you're doing in that time. And I can say, okay, these stay, these go. Add these, take out these. They'll know what to do. Will they do it? That's a totally different, that's a totally different thing. That's why I don't guarantee that. So that's why I would never be a dietitian or any kind of foods. That's not part of what I do. Like I said, if you ask me, I'll tell you, what I think or what I suggest is good for you. I know how macros work, and I know how certain things work in the body and all that. I'll give you some general. But again, I'm not with you every day. I'm not in your refrigerator. I'm not in your, I'm not with you 24 hours a day. I if I'm with a client, I trained a guy yesterday for 17 minutes, and he gone. What he did after that, what he ate after that, I couldn't tell you. But then he comes, he may come back and say, "Oh yeah, I gained a couple pounds." So, hey, what have you been doing? So again, it's this constant, thing. It's not just dealing with the anger. It's just a lot of different issues that people sometimes deal with. So again, certainly listening to more constructive options is certainly, I think, a good step in terms of, okay, if you're going to try to break this cycle, certainly start to list the things that you can do that can be constructive, and then finally the outcome. We're looking for outcomes, and especially when it comes to anger or whatnot. Ultimately, to me, the biggest price is, again, the relationships that you have, especially your close ones. And all that stuff that we went through, from the triggers to the emotions to the actions that you take off of those emotions to the consequences of those emotions. If there's to be any kind of restoration, reconciliation, if there's anything, you got to deal with a lot of that stuff. If this is the outcome that you want, peace in your home, peace with those around you, or whatever, a team, whatever it is, list the most likely results of the more constructive options. And I know in my house, I just want this. You know what I mean? To me, the picture kind of says everything. This is what most people, I would think, would want. You just want this situation, but how many people are willing to do the work to get there? So, Coach, and this is the last certainly slide in the deck, but if you want to just kind of put a summary kind of on this here, we can certainly start to land the plane on the show. Like I said, I think this is an exercise that's best used in a group sort of setting. That, again, people can kind of share, be transparent with each other. But certainly, I think a good facilitator can certainly also help drive this, content. But hopefully, this is kind of what we're looking to get to. This situation. Go ahead, Coach. You can start to put your final thoughts together or start to summarize this.
Brother Bennett, man, the way you've sort of went through the slides from the beginning, man, you the facilitator, man. You're the facilitator. You're in that position, man. And I hope that you get an opportunity to sort of present the presentations that you've put together over the last year to a group of people who may be in a particular space based off whatever subject matter we've covered over this time, man. So, yeah, man, I don't know what else to say, man. When you come with options, you may get some outlandish answers. That's just a part of it. Some people still may be in that hurt mindset a little longer than others, and that's okay. Because if they still showing up, even in that hurt, that says a lot about who they're trying to be.
Mhm.
And some people would show up in those situations and wouldn't say nothing for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But then you ask them a question about something similar to this, like, "Hey, man, what do you think they could have did? How you think they could?" And they may give some great answers,
Mhm.
and they're not going to be, some people will stand out above the rest. Some people, may be confident, but they don't understand their confidence. It's a clowny confidence, right? They want to be the center of attention. And some, may sit back and observe for a while, because a lot of people, when you're dealing with trying to help be better, their trust level is sometimes low, which is not a good thing. They have it. It's just that they're looking to trust what you present to them, how you present it, in a way to help them better understand and not belittle them,
Yeah.
not make fun. So yeah, man. So yeah, it's just part of sometimes giving options. Most people give, solid options though, especially because if they can relate to it and they've experienced it, then they're always going to try to help. Especially that's why you love being in position to work with that population, the underdog. Everybody I worked with, I used to sit when I was in Indianapolis for about a year. I worked in a drug treatment facility for Volunteers of America, in-house, feeding women with babies,
Mhm.
Small babies. I done rocked so many babies on my knee, man. Some of the high schools I worked at had mothers, and they used to have having sessions with females is complicated. Sometimes they wasn't no different from the sixth grade girls I was coaching, and these are grown
I can
people.
imagine. Yeah.
So to just be able to mind those things out, understand that accountability is probably the hardest thing that people can own. We can be emotional. We we can we can run through 42 emotions, but owning accountability is probably one of the most complicated to help individuals see how it could better their overall output. And sometimes it's not about the race, it's about the journey, and getting people to see that based off what they're seeing in the world, living in America. The rich have all the fun, and getting people to see how those steps could help you in the long run when they are in their situations in the immediate is a tall task, but it can be done. It's just, it takes different people to deal with different people's emotions who are not family in a sense. So salute to anybody, man. Salute to you. The fact that you know what I'm saying, are interested in stuff like this. So, but yeah, it's so much out there, man.
Mhm.
And like I said, if you ever get to a point where you get an opportunity to present, man, take one of these slides, man. Take one of your slides and just break it down to them, man. And
All right. Noted. Noted. Well, again, we want to thank you guys certainly once again for being with us here, certainly on this show. This is completes the 5-part series that we've done on anger management. And obviously, this is something that is, like I said, we press it into 5 shows, but this is a process. This can take weeks. It could take months. It needs the right, certainly, environment in order to facilitate these things. So again, all we're trying to do is just give you some tools, or at least point you in the right direction, but still seek professional help, or certainly those who do this certainly on a regular basis. Certainly those are things that but we're just trying to give you just some information just to start things to think about. starting the process, to starting the journey, that hopefully you can come to a situation where you can have a better understanding of yourself, take positive, progressive actions that lead to a better life, a more peaceful life, better relationships. And the better relationships you have, that just everything else kind of filters off of that. Your money, your income, your your prospects for the future. I think everything changes when you can kind of get control of self. But just know who you are, know yourself, know the cycle, and then decide when you want to break that cycle and start doing things differently, and humbling yourself to do things different, and then understanding, look, I need help in this area. And that's, I think, where everything starts. Humility is the beginning of wisdom. And so once you're able to do that, I think that's where you can start finding healing in this particular space. But as always, I certainly want to thank Coach for being certainly here tonight, certainly to give some vision and insight. Like I said, on most of the slides he provided the raw material. It could be just one picture. And I would then just break it into sections to make it more manageable over a course of a show. So really, it may be one picture with all these different things on, and I just break it down. So so hopefully, you guys have found that useful in this space as well. But certainly next week, well, we might take a week off. And I'm going to talk to Coach and talk to certainly to Sparta. But we're going to start a new series on intelligence. There's various levels. People oftentimes look at intelligence in terms of one way, but there's different types of intelligence that are out there, and we're going to explore those different types of intelligence, and then also what methods or what activities help to teach to that intelligence, to feed that intelligence, or that sense of learning based on where you are. But sometimes our school systems tend to limit people in terms of you have to be in this particular space to be considered intelligent. And there's so much more out there that a lot of times we don't value certain people who, certainly could thrive and certainly in their area of intelligence, but, either haven't been given the encouragement to develop in those areas, or that the society doesn't necessarily appreciate what that person does. So we're going to start a new series of shows dealing with that topic. That's going to be next Thursday on Next Gen Training, but certainly tune in to the Sparta HQ Network. Certainly Sunday, we'll have our gray area show, and I believe we're setting up an interview, another one of our military interview shows. We're going to have someone on that's still kind of being worked out and finalized. But next Monday, obviously, is the wrestling show on the network. Tuesday is the Spartan Arena, where they talk about 9-to-5 job versus hustle culture. So again, just stay tuned to, certainly stay tuned to those shows. And then Wednesday, Marvel versus DC when universes collide. So again, that's sort of a hangout show, which is moved from Saturdays to Wednesdays just to accommodate weekends and certainly give people an opportunity to certainly enjoy their weekends, especially with their loved ones. So that's what's coming up on the Spartan Network. Again, make sure you hit the like button, certainly as you leave the show, but certainly for myself and for the coach. Again, this is Next Gen Training here on the Sparta HQ Network. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care. God bless. And we will see you next time. Good night.
Good night.